Welcome, Giancarlo Gomez. Over to you, Giancarlo.
Hello, everybody. So thank you for showing up. Hopefully you're enjoying all the content. We'll be talking about WebSockets today. So let me just get my slides going. We're talking about mastering WebSockets with ColdFusion, code faster, code smarter. I've done this presentation, many different versions of it. Sometimes it's 2 sessions, sometimes it's 1. So we're going to go through a lot of code or a lot of information as quickly as possible. And hopefully I can get to everything within the time allotted. So first, a little bit about me. I'm a proud father of 3. Those are my rugrats, and I am also a dog person, so 3 of them as well. I am a musician. I'm also a web developer since 1999. I am the owner of Fuse Developments, Inc. and Crosstracker, Inc., which is a SaaS that I created for the CrossFit community. And I'm also the South Florida ColdFusion User Group co-manager. So again, we have a lot of stuff to go over, so I'm just kind of going to go real quick through some slides or information. So let's kick into high gear. So first, what are WebSockets? Well, WebSockets, are a persistent connection. They're stateful and lightweight protocol, low latency, and event-driven programming. So again, it allows simultaneous bidirectional communication between a server and a client. So it's real-time data. It's very lightweight, unlike HTTP. It has minimal overhead. So that gives you low latency, right? So you can get almost instant communication back and forth. And it allows your programming to become more event-driven. So it's really good for applications that require real-time updates, such as live notifications, chat apps, interactive dashboards, basically where action triggers immediate response, server responses. So it's pretty fast. So what WebSockets are not. So push notifications on our phones, right? So like when you have your phone that's sending you all these notifications, those are normally iOS or Android apps using Apple Push Notification Service or Google Cloud Messaging. And there's also web push notifications that you can do from your browser via a push service. So those are really good, but they can also be real noisy. And the difference between them is that if you have WebSockets, right, if we look at this graph this table right here, if you want your messages delivered to a closed application, WebSockets will not do that for you, right? It has to be an application that's open on your browser because it's a constant communication. Where push notifications, you can deliver to a closed application. Latency with WebSockets, because you are connected, they're pretty much almost real time. With push notifications, usually near real time, but you're in the queue, so really you don't have that much control. And then the frequency throughput with WebSockets is high, where push notifications might be a little lower. So you might already say, well, I already do this. And you probably do. We all did, right? One way was short polling. So basically, it's like short polling is where you create an AJAX request from your website to your server, and you basically say, hey, do I have an update? Server says, no, I don't have an update. You return back. Then you maybe wait a couple seconds, and then you kind of do that round robin, always going asking, hey, is there an update? No, there isn't. Is there? No. And you're actually making the server do all this business logic when there's no need. And you have, again, the extra HTTP calls from your client. Another way to do it was long polling, where you send the request, but now you kind of loop on the server and you keep that connection open. And that's kind of dangerous with a web server because there is a limited amount of connections you can have. It's not meant to really stay open. So again, you can send it over and you can say maybe for a minute you just loop over and you keep that thread open. You can say, okay, is there an update? No, and then you kind of wait a couple more seconds. And then again, when you hit the minute, you either say, if there's a response, let me know right away. If at a minute there's no response, kill it, tell the user that there's no update. And then again, you do the same thing as short polling where you start the whole request again. But there is a better way, and that is WebSockets. So WebSockets really starts as a normal handshake, then there's an HTTP upgrade, and it then creates that bidirectional messaging, which is open and persistent, and either side can close that. So the server can close it or the client can close it. So here's where I would show a video. Normally in my presentations, everything in this slide deck is already available for you. There's these links that you can go to. So I'm going to skip through this, but basically what this showed, there was a couple of examples I showed. One was 2 forms where 2 users are connected to the form, and the user on one side is making changes and the other user is seeing it in real time, and vice versa. So they're both making changes to the same form in 2 different browsers, and they're both getting notifications of the changes they made, and they don't override each other. Another one was where we would pull data for a staging website from a production website, but it was a lot of data to kind of push over. So we had this UI that kind of just showed all the status of those things happening. And if you'll see that if you see this video, and you're having all the information go through, and it's a nice UI rather than just a spinning thing that could have taken 5 minutes and you have no idea. So real nice stats and all that. Another one was for Duty Free Americas as well, is where they have a dashboard. So like a I think I didn't say it right. Kanban, like I'm gonna say it wrong, but like just all these statuses, right? And when you made an order, it would go into the first column, and then when they pick up the order, it would go to the second column, and so on and so on and so on. And that would all happen in real time as different people are taking actions on that order. And then the final one, which was the whole enchilada, was how we use it in Cross Tracker, where we have different screens that kind of interact with each other in real time. So again, unfortunately, I can't show it here, but it's available there. You can take that URL and see it later, or scan that, or just wait to download the PDF and you can see it. So this moves us along. So WebSockets in ColdFusion, well, that was introduced in ColdFusion 10. Unfortunately, back then there was no SSL support and only 100 connection limit on standard, which really wasn't a problem because back then browsers weren't really strict about being on a secure site and then hitting a non-secure endpoint. But if you had a secure site and then you tried to get on your WebSocket server, it wouldn't work eventually because they wouldn't allow that. So ColdFusion 11 made it production ready where there's no connection limits even in standard. They introduced proxy support, which simplified configuration massively. And then SSL support they introduced as well. And if you did have enterprise, you could also do cluster. Now I'll say in the way I've used it, I've never needed to use a cluster. But again, if you do, it's really easy to do it where you kind of set it up and then you have a multicast port that you set up all your servers. And if you're really comfortable in setting up clusters, then it's pretty easy to just get it all started. So how do you use this? Well, in 2021 and up, you have to install it in the CFadmin or via CFPM, and then you have to enable it in the CFadmin. So in the CFadmin, you'll have a page like this where you have all these settings. And if you see the one that says use proxy, once you click that, everything in the red kind of goes away. You don't have to manage all that because the SSL certificate is all done on your web server, which makes it so much easier. But if you want to use the internal WebSocket server and you want to be on a secure site, then you need to enable the SSL port, upload a key store, which can be a JKS, a Java key store, a KCS 12 file, so a PFX file. And then you need to add the key store password. So whichever one you're comfortable with. Then once you have that, you define your channels in your application CFC. And that's done with this.ws channels. And you have a name of a channel, and this is like your global top level channel. And if you want to have like additional protection or different additional listeners on your channel, you define a CFC listener, which lives within your application. And it's delimited. So like, for instance, this would be one called protected channel listener.cfc right at the root. If I had it multiple folders down, it'd be delimited. Then you, on your client, you would use the CF WebSocket tag. So this right here would say, okay, this is my CF WebSocket tag, and I want my global JavaScript object to be named WS. And when I receive a message, I have a global function called onMessage that I need you to push that message in there, and then I'll do all my JavaScript and automatically subscribe me to dashboard. So this does a lot of stuff with just one little tag. It brings on all the JavaScript you need and automatically subscribes you to that dashboard. And then when you want to publish to something from the server, you can use the WS publish function. Sorry. So here from the server, I would say, hey, I want you to publish to dashboard this message, and everybody who subscribed will get that message. And then on your client side, you write some JavaScript. So here's our on message. Here, basically, I'm just logging out the message so you can see. And then if I want to send a message to this dashboard, it's just WS publish dashboard hello world. And again, I use WS just as an example. You can name it whatever you want, but it kind of follows a naming convention. So the CF WebSocket tag, there's a couple of things to it, right? One thing that's required is a name, which is the name of the WebSocket object. Again, this is the reference to that JavaScript object that is available for you to work with. You need a onMessage function that should be at the global level, right? At the window level that you can access. And then you can even have one for onOpen, onClose, onerror. If you use CF login, I don't, but if you do and you had some authentication, US CF auth is the attribute for it. And then subscribe to, it can be a single channel, or you can even do a comma separated list of channels and sub-channels to subscribe to. So basically, I don't know how good this might look on the stream, but all this is available to you. And what I wanted to showcase here is that on the right side, where you have basically 4 lines of code, 2 lines if you didn't do the break on the script, you have the CF WebSocket tag that says, okay, WS, and then on message, I want you to pass it to message, and I want you to subscribe me to dashboard, and then I have that function, and I would see my messages. That right there connects you. That's all you would need to do. Where if you were to do it the vanilla JavaScript solution way, there's a lot more information there. And again, the first line, new WebSocket, you would then connect to your WebSocket server, and then you have on open. You tell it, I want you to subscribe to dashboard. And then on message, I have my on message there. And then I have subscribe, unsubscribe, and publish. And normally when you look at the WebSocket API, that new WebSocket is basically all you need. But for ColdFusion, you have to send these payloads, right? These JSON objects that tell it what you want to do, right? Like I want my application name, that's app name, WebSocket example. And then I want to subscribe the channel, and then you can pass in custom options. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So client functions, this is your JavaScript object. You have a couple of things, right? WS, again, I'm just using WS as a prefix here. So you have authenticate, username and password. This is the one thing that kind of, it's the only place where you would see it integrate with your application in the sense of like sessions or anything like that, because your WebSocket server is different than your web server. So like if you're trying to have a channel listener and try to access your session, your client session, you're not going to be able to do that. That's 2 completely different servers. That's the way you have to think about it. But here, this is the one code that sits in your application CFC, and it's a function, and I'll show you a little bit later, where you pass a username and password, and then you have all your logic in there, and you pass back whether the person is authenticated or not. And then that's what you can use on your protected channels. Then you have WS subscribe. This is where you can subscribe a user to a channel. Then you have this custom options object or struct, and it's really key value pairs that are added to the subscriber's information. But there's a special key called selector that you can do some real cool things with, where you can, as when you subscribe, you can say, I want to only receive messages that match this criteria. And then the message handler, that's your on message. So even though the CF WebSocket tag needs that on message function to be available, if you wanted to override this specific subscribe to use a different message handler, this is where you can do it. And this is all JavaScript side, right? So in publish, same thing, you have channel, message, and custom options. Again, value key pairs that are passed to the message, that are part of the message, that can be used by subscribers' criteria, but you can also pass a selector here where you can say, I only want users that match this criteria to receive this message. And this is easier to see to see it actually working, to really understand. So I'll give some demos of that. Then there's a WS invoke and publish. So this is the way you can invoke a remote CFC. Again, it has to be within your application, and you would put the channel that you want to work with, because you always have to be within a channel. Then the CFC, again, .delimited, if you wherever it is in your application. Then you put the name of the function you want to execute, and if your function has arguments, you pass them in an array. So those are positioned, right? So if you are writing this CFC and you're writing these functions, and then you're moving around your arguments, that's going to cause an issue, right? Because you can't pass named arguments. You pass basically positioned arguments. And then you can pass your custom options that works just like publish. So invoke and publish is you invoke the CFC, and then you can publish to everybody, or you can even just return a message just to yourself. Then there's the invoke. The invoke is basically used for point-to-point communication. So basically when you invoke this as a user, that means you're not going to publish to any channel. It's just going to come back to you, whatever the response is. Then you have unsubscribe. Again, you can unsubscribe a user from a channel. You can get the subscriber count of a channel. You can get the subscriptions to a channel. You can see if you can open a connection. You can close the connection. You can check if it's connected. And then is connection open basically just passes to is connected. Next, we have our server function. So from ColdFusion, what you can use, again, WS publish is a function that you can publish to anybody who is subscribed to a channel. You pass the message. Then you can pass the custom options, works just like the JavaScript, where you can have like keys that you pass to it, or even a selector criteria. And then you have that clustered flag that if you do have a cluster, this is where you pass true or false if you wanted to go through the cluster. WS get all channels. We'll give you all the top level channels. And if you pass a channel in, it'll give you the sub channels of that channel. And then cluster it again. If you have a cluster, you pass true or false. Same thing with WS subscribers. That one you do have to pass a channel, and it'll give you an array of structs with the client ID and the subscriber info. And then WSN message, this is the one that you can use in the point-to-point communication. So when you do invoke and publish or invoke, if you do WSN message, it's just going to send to the user that originated that message and not to everybody else. So the server response, again, everything is JSON here. You'll get different types of responses. So for instance, client ID, this is the unique ID that's assigned to you, and you'll get this on your welcome and on your subscribe. And it's good to know that, because like, let's say you build like a chat app, right? Now you can say, okay, I subscribe, and then you have your client ID, and based on how you build your JavaScript, you can say, okay, when I send a message, I can either like put it into my UI right away, right? But you're always going to get that response from the WebSocket. When you publish it, you are also a subscriber. And if you do that and you get that message again, you can say, hey, did this message come from me, which is the publisher ID, right? And if it matches, you go, okay, don't add it to the UI, because if not, you're going to have two messages, right? So there's many ways that you can use this, but it's good to know what your client ID is. NS is just a namespace. It's just there, ColdFusion WebSocket channels. It's always the same code. You have 0 for success, -1 for channel error, and 4001 for application error. So I'll explain them on the right-hand side. But again, if you have like an authentication, and if it failed, you'll get a -1. That's a normal like channel error. If you have like a 500 error or something wrong with your ColdFusion code, then you'll get a 4001. Then you have your publisher ID that you get. That's the client ID of the publisher. That's when somebody sends a message. The channel name is the name of the channel that this is coming through. The type is data or response. So response, again, like your welcome, your authenticate, you can see that there's a type, and then below that there's a request type. And the request type tells you the type of request that was made from the JavaScript function. So if you look at the authentication failed, if it's visible, I don't know, but there it's like the one closest to the bottom. If it failed, it says, okay, hey, this was a type of response for authenticate. Code is -1, authentication failed. That's the message that you get. So subscriber count, channels applies if you do a get subscription response. Subscriber count applies if you get subscription count. Message applies to responses, as you can see. And if it's a type of data, then you get data, and then the message is conveyed through this data object. And it could be a string, it could be a JSON object, whatever you send over. So how do channels work? So channels that are defined in the application CFC, and they can have an endless amount of sub-channels which are created dynamically. So you only have to create the top level channel. Then a user subscribes to a parent channel. When the user subscribes to a parent channel, they also subscribe to sub-channels. And the user who subscribes to sub-channels does not subscribe to its parent channel. So an easy way to see this is in this table here. So for instance, there's these 4 channels. There's stocks, stocks.finance, stocks.banks, stocks.finance.adobe, right? The only one you need to define in your application CFC is stocks. Everything else is created in real time. So if I subscribe to stocks, I'm going to get all the messages in any of the sub-channels. But if I subscribe to only stocks finance, I'll only receive it for stocks finance and stocks finance Adobe. And so on. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but this allows you to understand how channels and sub-channels work. Next, we have selectors. This is that selector key that I advised, where you can use comparison selectors like less than, equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, equal to, not equal to, and combine them with using logical operators like and or. And it allows you to pass in different things. So if you look at my dump on the right-hand side, that's like a get subscribers dump, and it's telling me like the first client ID, their subscriber info. You can see that that person has a key of department because they registered with the department, and then they send the selector of department equals HR. What that means is like, hey, I only want to get messages that have a key that equal HR, right? And then you can see in the bottom, there's somebody that logged in and their department is accounting, and there's an employee struct with the first name and last name. So these are things that you can pass, as you can see on the left-hand side, and you just basically adds keys to your subscriber info, and you can have, child keys and all that. And the best thing for these examples here is when we go to the live coding to really understand, which I have. So channel listener. This is where you can use that listener on your app, on your channel, and you can do a lot more stuff, right? Rather than leaving it open. So this channel listener, the CFC must exist within your application's directory structure, and it must extend the default listener, which is it's located at CFID WebSocket channel listener. Now, every time there's an upgrade to ColdFusion, I like to go look at that listener because it only happened once, but that's all I needed to learn is where I upgraded to the next version of ColdFusion. There was a new function. I can't remember which one it was, but because my listeners didn't have that function, all my WebSockets stopped working until I went and added that function to the listener. So again, just make sure that you always look in there. So you have a couple of functions. Allow subscribe. This is invoked before you subscribe to a channel or sub-channel where you can say, hey, can this person subscribe? After unsubscribe is something that you can execute after somebody leaves a channel. Allow publish. It's invoked before publishing on a channel or sub-channel where somebody could be like, can this person publish to this channel? Then before publish, it's invoked before publishing the given message. You can use this for business logic. You have before send message that's actually invoked before sending the message to a subscribe client where you can do additional formatting just for that client. And then you have can send message, which is invoked before sending the message to a subscribe client that says, can I send this to that client? So if you have that function, your selectors will not work, right? So think of selectors is a nice and easy way to use it when you don't want to use a channel listener. But if you're going to put in a channel listener, you probably can put more business logic in there than your selectors. And having that in place will make any selector not work. So again, here's the messaging framework. I don't know if that looks well, but I'm going to bring it here have it a lot bigger here. Okay, so here we go. When you authenticate, you make an authentication call and it goes to on WS authenticating your application CFC. That will then respond to the client whether the person authenticated or not. Then when you go to subscribe, it will check if they can subscribe. And you have within that function your business logic of can the person subscribe? And then when you go to publish, it goes to this flow where it says, okay, can this person publish? Let's do something before we publish. So that one happens one time for the message for everybody. Then can send message happens for every individual person that you're going to send the message to. And then you have before send message, which again happens again before each client, and then it publishes. So again, it looks like that. And listener, again, this is probably really small on your screen, but there is code that you'll be able to look through and kind of understand how all this works. So real quick, clusters, enterprise only. You must use the built-in WebSocket server. You must create instances in the instance manager. Again, if you're using clusters, this should be already real easy for you to understand. You define the cluster, you rebuild your connections, you turn on the WebSocket clustering on all instances, and then you have fun testing. And the way it is, if somebody connects to instance B and somebody connects on instance A and they're both on the same channels, then they can subscribe and publish to each other. So server requirements. What do I need to look for? Sorry, I was just looking at my time. Okay, so to use the built-in WebSocket server, you're required if the server doesn't meet the minimum criteria for working, or if you're working with clusters. So you need to open ports for non-secure and secure connections. So if you don't have control of that, this could be like an additional burden with your team where you're like, hey, I need to open this stuff and all that. And then also you have to like add certificates to a Java keystore or PFX file, whichever one you're more comfortable with. I'm more comfortable with the latter. And then using proxy, which is the one that I like, you need to be on Apache 2.2 compiled with a worker module, not pre-fork. So they're normally compiled with pre-fork by default, so you have to compile it yourself. I've never used it because I haven't used Apache in that way. And then the examples I'm going to show you are more IIS related. So with IIS, you just need to be in IIS 8 or higher with the WebSocket protocol enabled, because you actually have WebSockets right in IIS with .NET. And this is how it looks like if you were to look at your Apache to see how you were how it was compiled. And when you're adding windows and features for your IIS server, you just make sure that you click that WebSocket protocol. So proxy settings and file locations. This is good to know. So your proxy settings are in your CF admin server settings WebSocket, and I showed you that screen earlier. When you when you create that config with the WS proxy config that lives within your bin WS proxy config, sort of the same thing as your WS config that lives on the runtime bin. This will create a virtual application on your IIS site that you can see on the right-hand side, where it's called CFWS, right under your default or whichever site you have. One thing to note, they sometimes fix this and then it kind of goes back and forth, but if you have a different application name for your site, which I normally do, that virtual application gets assigned an application pool of default, even if you don't have one called default. So you'll get this all set up and it doesn't work. And you're like, why isn't it working? And it's because that child application needs to have the same application pool as a parent site. So make sure you right click on it, look at the settings and select the application pool that is for it. Then if you're still having issues, I've had this sometimes too, where I have multiple versions of ColdFusion installed on the server. And even though the port is specified in the admin in a certain way, if you go to that config and you go to that config WS proxy, the ID of that connector, your bin config INI, there's that setting right there is called port, where it needs to be the same port you had defined in your ColdFusion administrator. So these are places to look when it doesn't work, which I mentioned here. So things to watch for. Application pool must have a .NET framework assigned for hire. Do not set it to unmanaged code or .NET 2, it won't work. Your virtual application must have the same application pool assigned. Make sure the config INI has a port defined in the ColdFusion administrator. Those are pretty much the top three like issues when somebody's trying to set up and it doesn't work. And then if you add a new top level channel, you will need to reinit your application. So it's not like you can just add it and then it just goes. You have to reinit it, which then there's a whole new set of issues that is with that we'll discuss in a little bit. If you're using proxy method, make sure that none of your CF WebSocket tags have a secure attribute set to true, as that will cause an error. So if you had this all done and using the internal server, you need that secure attribute to be set as true or false, depending on how you're connecting. But if you would then go and change it to proxy, all your code will fail, right? Because you'll get that WebSocket server is now running in secure mode, excuse me. And I really don't understand why, right? It should be like, hey, we're using proxy, let's just ignore this. But unfortunately, it's one of those things to watch for. Just go a simple regex, you go and you just replace and find everything in your application. Another thing is when you're doing a WS publish on your server, wrap it in its own thread. Trust me, it's for the best, especially if you're working with like frameworks. I've had issues that it kind of messes up the request. And really, you're publishing a message, just let it go on its own. There's nothing that you need to wait for, right? You're just sending it to that server. And then if you delete a site on IIS without removing the proxy, I've done that. Sometimes, just a little bit impatient. Just go and do an IIS reset or run that WS proxy config again, because your IIS server might just start acting up. So debugging, we all have to do it. So there's many ways to do it. It's easy in the browser. You open up your web developer tools, network, WS. It's now called Socket in Chrome. But when you go into Chrome, you'll see it like this. You'll click on it, and then you'll see a messages tab. That's where you'll see all your messages coming in, going in and out. And then on Firefox, again, network and WS, and you'll see it under response rather than messages. It's nice to know where it is. You can also use Postman or other tools like this that allow WebSocket. And like I told you, like you need a specific payload. So I have some examples I'll show you, but this is a nice way to also like just kind of like debug your application, right? Like kind of have it as a console, kind of seeing all your messages. Or you can use a nice drop-in console. Again, this is available at GitHub. You can even install it through ForgeBox, and there's a link there. Again, you'll have all these links available to you. And you just drop this into your you just drop this into your application, and then it'll pick up your channels, and you can even do a bunch of stuff with it. So real world issues. This is when we talk about network connection, application reloads, server uptime. So when you have your WebSocket server and the user's network goes down, right? They don't think it's, there's nothing in the code that you can tell it, hey, your connection is currently down. So you have to handle these things, right? So let's say you have a dashboard and somebody comes in with a phone and is doing something, but you're not seeing it update. It makes your application look broken. But the problem is that dashboard probably lost its Wi-Fi connection or something. So it's good to have something that listens to that. Another thing too, right? You deployed a new change or you added a new channel and you reload the application. When you reload the application, all connections are lost. And that dashboard won't know that, right? So then again, the person is putting something, dashboard has no response, looks broken, but it's not. And then server uptime, same thing as an application reload, your server goes down, server comes back up, everything has to reconnect, but that's not built in. And that's where I did advanced socket. So it easily integrates with CF WebSocket. There's callbacks for connection drops that lets you add your own, logic here for your UI. But this is like a basic example where I have all these data attributes on the body that it looks for. And channels, again, works just like the channels on CF WebSocket, where you can say, okay, I need you to, auto subscribe to this one channel or multiple channels, what my message, what my global message tag is. I have an online timer. So while I'm online, I want you to ping the server every 10 seconds. If I go offline, I need you to ping that server every 2 seconds to see until when I get up. Then you have a reconnect timer. Again, if you're in a framework and your framework is reloading, you might not want 1,000 connections trying to connect right away, right? You might say, hey, we're going to reinit the application. Give me 5 seconds before you go and try to connect to the server. So that's where you use that. And then there's a ping URL, which is really something that you can do whatever you want with, however you want to track your connections. My example basically just uses the get subscriber info and so on, but there's many ways to do it. Again, this is all available in the code. And then the CF WebSocket tag, again, you still need it. And I put WS, and I say on message, go use advanced socket.onMessage. And this is like the library. And that will then just use whatever you define in the attributes. And then you can see here, I have a little UI elements, and there's things that I'm doing. Like I'm saying, hey, if it disconnected, tell the person they're disconnected, connected, connecting, etc. Then when I do the on message, there's a force reconnect. This is where I tell advanced socket, hey, disconnected. This is like for the application reinit. And that's all demoed in the application code. Okay, so we made it. And I think we have a good amount of time. Yes. So again, all this demo code is available for you. I even made a video that's going to go a little bit slower than what I'm going to go through right now. So don't worry if it's too much. You can go to that video. It's on YouTube. You can watch it however you want. There's code. Everything that you want is available to you to watch later on at your own leisure. Let's go to some live coding. All right, cool. So here we go. If you download this, there's a server JSON. Everything's available for you. You can basically just download this, then do box install, and that's going to install with box install. I have the advanced socket and the ColdFusion WebSocket console that will install automatically for you. So that's available for you through ForgeBox. And then you just start it up. And here we have an application name of WebSocket example. I've defined a couple of channels: dashboard, demo, console, protected, and then I have the CFC listener. Then I have my on request start. Again, I'm real simple. I'm saying, hey, reload, go ahead and publish the dashboard force reconnect. And then I start my application and I do I redirect.
Hey, Giancarlo, sorry to interrupt. We are still seeing the last slide.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me stop sharing and share again. 1 second. Entire screen. All right. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I must have been, I guess. Do you see when I go back and forth now between the screens?
Yep, we can see that.
Okay. Last time I guess I only did that window. Sorry. Okay. So going back here again, this is our application CFC. Again, if you download this code, you have a server JSON, down install 2025. It'll do that CFPM install WebSocket on that initial install with command box, and it'll install advanced socket for you in ColdFusion WebSocket console from ForgeBox. So you'll have all this demo code to play with. Again, this WS channels, I have dashboard, demo, console, protected. This one is managed by the CFC listener. I have a simple, if I pass reload in my URL, I'm going to go ahead and publish force reconnect to everybody. And I'm going to start my application. I'm going to redirect. And that's going to help everybody who's using advanced socket to reconnect. And then I have this on WS authenticate. Again, here's my amazing security. Here are my users and their passwords. And when you call this, you're expecting a username, password, and then the connection info. And then in my connection info, I set authenticated to false. And if that user matches one of these, then that's set to true, which then lets them know that they are authenticated. But you can put any business logic in here. And then we'll start with just our index file, our first initial file. You'll see here, I really don't have much going on, just a UI, a button to clear my log. I have, here's where my message will go. Here's a little form so I can pass my messages. I have some JavaScript code. Again, you can look through it here, but it's really a simple chat where I'm basically telling it what to do, right? When I receive my message. So when I receive my message, I'm going to cancel the message. And if it's welcome, I'm going to set my ID to that message client ID that comes. And if it's data, I'm going to go ahead and use this function to write to the UI. So again, on my CF WebSocket, name WS, simple chat on message, simple chat on open. And then my secure, this is just true or false. Again, remember, if you're using proxy, remove that. So here it is. Here's our WebSocket example. And let me go ahead and show you here on your console. And I'll make this a little bit bigger. So you can see when I came in, I went ahead and connected and I received those messages coming in. And if I say hello, it's going to go ahead and receive that message. And I'll go ahead and open up Firefox. Do the same here. All right, there we go. And then if we go, okay, hello from Chrome. And there we go. And I know it's a chat app. It's one of the simple, one of the most easiest like WebSocket applications you can demo. But here we go. And then hello from Firefox. And that's pretty much the gist of it, right? Like all that code, and now you have WebSockets running on your application. So what I want to do here is show you an example of two views. Let's see, let me go ahead, another one. So if I were to, this is like another browser window. So this is a different client at this point, right? And if I go to my subscribers, you'll notice that I have, well, let me close out Chrome. If I refresh here, I have the subscribers page. You can see in my dashboard, I have, and it should eventually disappear. I have two clients on my dashboard, actually three, because this guy's there too, sorry. So, and then we'll go to this view. Again, hello. And we have communication between both. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to clear this, I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to unsubscribe. Unsubscribe from dashboard. So we don't get any more messages. And this is where I want to demo let me just find them real quick. I want to demo sample.js. Here we go. I want to demo the selectors. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to subscribe to dashboard. And I have a key of HR, but my selector is saying, hey, I just want messages that have a department that equals HR, right? And now this second guy, he's going to subscribe and he's going to have that key of department HR, but no selector. It means I'm going to receive anything. So again, we're going to go to our subscribers info, going to go look at those two guys. And you can see has a department of HR with a department equals HR. And this one has, again, department HR, but no selector. So if I come here and I go and say, dashboard, hello, you'll see that only this user gets that message. And that's because this user says, I only want to get messages that have a department key of HR. So if I go here, I send this one. Now this is me publishing, saying, okay, I'm going to publish a message to dashboard. And only users that have a selector key of HR can get this. And to show you that example, let me go ahead and open up that Firefox thing, Firefox again. Just give you another window. And before I do that one, I'm just going to do the hello, everybody. Oop. Yeah, send that. And you can see that they received it, right? So now I'm going to do that one that says equals HR. You can see that only this guy received it. This guy still didn't receive it, and neither did they. And it could be like, and you could be confused, like, well, why didn't this guy receive it, right? He's got a department of HR. Well, they also specified, I only want to receive a message where the message has a key department that equals HR. So the only message that we get is this one here. So if I publish this message, then you can see that they received it, and they received it as well. Because this is basically saying it goes to everybody in dashboard, but it has a key of HR. So those are your how to use your selectors in like the most basic form. Then we have static example. I have this in here. If, let's say if you didn't want to use a CF WebSocket tag, you don't have to. But I give you some examples of how, and there's a lot of stuff that's done for you by Adobe. But you can kind of look through this and see, okay, this is what I would need to do to subscribe. And then you have these, subscribe functions, unsubscribe, and you can see that I have to pass these JSON objects because this is specific to working with ColdFusion. So you'll have this app name, which is your application name, the type that you're passing in, and then your channel and your message object, right? Let's see what else. Next thing we'll do, okay, broadcast. So this is broadcasting from the server. If I hit this guy, you'll notice over here that they're getting that message, right? So when the server fires this off, they're getting that message. There's another one I have that's joke, that when I send a joke, I used to use this API. Whoop. There we go, yeah. So make sure that it doesn't do explicit, because one time I had really bad words behind me and everybody was laughing and I had no idea. But just so you can see this, I have this script here where I'm gonna just send it every 5 seconds. And you can see everybody here kind of getting those messages every 5 seconds. And because this one's not. There we go. That they had that key of only wanting to receive something that comes from Department HR. So here's our ColdFusion ones. Here's that static example. And then remember I told you Postman. Oops, let's bring this guy to that window. Sorry, bring it over here. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to my WebSocket server. Okay, I'm going to connect to my WebSocket server. And now I'm connected. And I'm going to use this subscribe. And I want to subscribe to dashboard. And once I subscribe, and you can see now that the message will start coming through. So there's that Chuck Norris in the fight, right? And like I said, you also have console available to you. So you can go to console and say, hey, I want to go ahead and subscribe to dashboard. And now you're going to see those messages coming through. And there you go. So again, this is all available for you to kind of like look through. Last thing I want to go through, and how much time do I have left? Okay, well, 144, we're good. Let me go ahead and clear this. Is to go, let's close the right view. Let's say I want to subscribe to that protected channel, right? So I'm going to go subscribe. I'm going to say protected. And you can see my access is denied. My access is denied right now because if we look at the protected channel CFC, we can say, okay, well, when the person comes to subscribe, are they authenticated? And that gets set over here. So what we're going to do here is we want to authenticate first, right? WS authenticate. I'm going to say admin, and I'm going to send a valid password, and it's going to be authentication failed. You can see that code -1, right? But now, if I log in properly, now I'm logged in. Now I can subscribe to protected, and I'm going to need to subscribe somebody else. So let's subscribe this guy here. Oop. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, okay, this one's going to be, let's do employee and password. Employee password. Okay, we're authenticated, and I am going to subscribe to my protected channel. All right, so now I'm subscribed, and you can see here, employee joined the channel. So what was that? That was that. Here we go. So on allow subscribe, when the person is allowed to subscribe, I want to let everybody know in my channel that this user has joined the channel. Let's say I leave the channel. See, now I go on. After unsubscribe, I want to let everybody know that that user has left the channel. So that's the cool things you can do, right? Again, I'm going to authenticate. I'm going to subscribe. Perfect. You say hello. I'm going to publish that. Good. So basically here, we are now communicating inside this protected channel. So can't send message, right? This basically is how we can send something with a message that says, okay, if the publisher info key exists with name, then publisher info with name must equal subscriber key exists first name. And if so, you can send that message. So what does that mean? This person, if we go to our subscriber and we look at protected, neither of these two have a first name. So if I come here, I'm going to add my custom options, and I'm going to add a key of with name. Let's set it to 1. Say hello, and I go publish. It gets published, but he didn't receive that value. If I said 0, they received it. Well, oops, sorry, I unsubscribed. Let me subscribe again. Sorry, I hit the wrong thing. So here, if I post that, well, now it's going to say, because this user doesn't have name, right? So let's unsubscribe. Actually, let me just do this here. Let me open up another console. And I want to go ahead, admin system, authenticate, and then I want to subscribe to protected with a first name value. Subscribe. And now, if I pass this, hey, you have a name. You can see that, hey, you have a name, he received it, where this user did not receive it. So again, a lot of stuff that you can really implement here. What's next? What do we have next? We have static subscribers, joke. Again, ping here is what I'm using to check when the user is, so actually before I do that, sorry, I'm jumping around. Let's go to advanced, because this is the last example here. So this advanced one is really, I'm making it really simple. Again, just showing the connected and not really showing any of this here. We're going to refresh this user here. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and post that joke. Again, now, if we look, both of these guys are getting that information. And I'm going to grab my subscribers page, just bring it here, keep my advance up, and I'm going to re-init my app. So I'm going to reload. So if you can see reload, when I reloaded, everything is gone. Got the first reconnect, but this user reconnected again. If I look, that's the only user that reconnected. So this here, although he thinks that he is connected, which comes back true, is actually not true, right? Because the user is no longer receiving messages. You actually have to refresh this in order to start receiving messages again. So that's what Advanced Socket does for you. And again, you have total control of what to do here. It's just, it kind of builds that foundation for you to be able to go ahead and work with WebSockets. And with that being said, I think I've actually managed to show you everything I have. So I will stop sharing. Well, actually, before I stop sharing, we'll go here and we'll go to, actually, sorry, I'm jumping around. One last thing. We do have that giveaway. And if one of you goes to this website, game.fusedev.com, I always like to play this game when I do my demos. So I'm going to write a game. You're going to click on play game, right? And I'm going to put here, it says CF Summit. All right. So if you meet me, oh, please match. Enter, what was it? Like, I forgot what my names are lowercase. Yes, okay. Channel names are lowercase. Channel is going to be, sorry, my name is JC. And the channel is going to be CF Summit. So if you do this, I'm waiting for somebody to join. Perfect. Well, I have Annette. So Annette, this is your basic Simon Says. So she clicked on green. So, well, I started on the system set green. So I'm going to do green. So now it should be her turn. Same thing. There you go. You have to do one more, Annette. There you go. So she did yellow. I'm going to do it again. Now it's her turn. And she did not do the right one. She probably went to blue or something. But basically, I win. She loses. But Annette, you won. I think it's $50. Thank you so much for playing. And with that, I am done. So again, if you need to contact me, just search for me, giancarlo.gomez@gmail.com. On most platforms, it's just Giancarlo Gomez. So LinkedIn, GitHub, X, but really just and also on the CFML Slack. Other than that, if there's any questions, let me know. And I will look over here to see if there's any questions. All right, excellent. Let's see. Joy, could you please share your mail? Okay, so that was it done there. All right, we'll have links there. Any questions? Sorry, didn't switch to new. Yep. What about Linux? So Hamilton, it does work on Linux. So again, if you have ColdFusion installed, you can use the internal WebSocket server, or if you're using like Apache and you want to set a proxy, just make sure that it's compiled with the right worker. But it is available to you. Let's see. I can see. Okay, do you need to use authentication for every invoked message? No, you only need to authenticate once. And then once you authenticate, you'll be able to subscribe to those channels that you have authentication restricted. Someone's too distracted by the Chuck Norris jokes. Sorry. At least they weren't bad words. That was horrible. Okay. Yes, Annette. The real winner is the friendship we made along the way. Thank you so much. And let's see, GC Group. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So, Zach, our CFUG. So we were normally down in Fort Lauderdale, but a lot of us have moved in the state. I live actually north of Tampa. Another one of us lives now in Titusville, one in Orlando. So we're kind of all over the state. So we do it the last Wednesday of the month, and it's virtual. But we still meet together every month to kind of catch up with each other and just talk technology overall. And I think if there's no more questions, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful session. I'll just end the